I want to talk to you about fear. Fear of not being ready for changing weather. In this case, on high mountains. In September of 1990, I was 16 years old, and my brother Dirk Anderson took me up Mount Sneffels above Ouray, Colorado. It's a 14,000 foot mountain. It sounds like a nose problem, but it's said to be one of the prettiest mountains in the state. That day, we started out in the morning and it was way colder than we expected. We put on every shred of clothing we had. We got above tree line and the sun came out and we stopped, put our clothing, some of it in our backpack, and then the mountain got steeper. We put all the rest of our clothing in our backpacks and got on the summit in shorts and a t-shirt just in time for a blizzard to roll in from the other side of the mountain in September. We ducked behind rocks on the summit, put our clothing on, tried to hold on to them as the wind and the snow was trying to take it away from us off the cliffs. And we put our clothes on and the snowstorm stopped 20 some minutes later. And we looked around and the mountains were sparkling, and my brother turned to me and said, "Isn't this awesome? We should do all these 14,000 foot mountains together. There's 54 of them." And we shook on it. And my brother said, "I have an idea." So we agreed to climb those mountains together, and we started climbing more in snow. And in January of 1997, we were climbing Mount Princeton above Buena Vista, Colorado. And we had skied up, set up a camp, and we were climbing up the ridge. And we got above a sub-peak, Tigger Peak, and my brother stopped to get water, and his glove blew away from him. I saw the glove, and I ran after it and got a hold of his glove, and I trudged up through the snow back to the top of the ridge and handed him his glove. And he looked at me, and his eyes were on fire while the rest of his face was blue with cold and shivering. And he said, "Seth, I have an idea." Now, we kept climbing mountains, and some of these mountains take trips by backpack into them, and we had to carry heavy backpacks and lots of gear. And when you get close to the mountain, there always is an issue of whether you take your big heavy backpack to climb the mountain or carry an extra backpack with you. And that problem for mountain climbing gave us an idea. And then we climbed more mountains and we got confident, and my brother always had a dream to climb the highest mountain in North America, Denali, also called Mount McKinley previously. And in 2005, we went up and climbed Denali, and we experienced from 40 below to warm temperatures, hot temperatures from the sun being reflected from the snow. And we said, we want to be able to adjust to extreme temperature changes. And we had an idea. In 2010, my friend Ann Driggers and I climbed up the Grand Mesa near the top, and we went to ski what's called the Ute Thunderbird that faces above the Grand Valley that I see every day. And we skied down the Thunderbird, and at the bottom, near the bottom of that, it enters what's called the Snake Chute. And when I tried to drop into that, I skied off a cliff on purpose, and I got into an avalanche, and it took me down 450 feet over 3 cliffs, and I was ready to make an air pocket, but I got spit out into a tree and onto a ledge, and the tree stopped me from falling. And I looked over where I landed, and another 70 feet of cliff and bare boulders were below me. And I looked down into my lap, and one heel was in my lap and my other heel was uphill from me next to my ear. And I had my phone and called 911, and luckily I'm still here. But I only had my jacket still on me over a long sleeve t-shirt, and my backpack and my skis and everything were taken off of me in the avalanche. And that experience of not having what I needed with me gave me an idea. All those ideas started to make us try to solve the problems of fear that we experienced with clothing. And in 1990, on that day with my brother's idea started with the idea of a hat that took us 7 years to come up with. But that night we went home and sewed up a neck eater hat that could vent, and it can let heat out. The idea is you can let heat out, but if you end up on a colder place than you thought it would be, you always have a way to cover your whole face, partially, fully, or even just wear a neck eater. But the idea being one thing that has what you need with you. On Mount Princeton, in winter conditions, my brother said, you know what would be cool, Seth, is if the layer that you're wearing that you want for that temperature, if you could cover your hands with what you're already wearing, then you don't have to remember or keep track of or be able to lose your gloves or your mittens, and you can always keep your hands covered and often and ideally as warm as your body because they're attached. Now, that idea of wanting to be able to adjust with changing temperatures, we wanted to have our clothing have the ability to have insulation with us and cover more of us on the front, or be able to move it to the back. But what worked really well is if it's colder, we came up with the idea of covering the front of your face and your neck inside your hood. That makes a hood track with you. You can just wear it like a neck eater. It's always there, it's always with you, but it's behind you and out of the way and not making you hot when you don't need it. And then when we were climbing mountains and backpacking in, we decided that what we really needed to have with us was our layers, our jackets with us that could carry extra gear in pockets. And then we decided, well, what if one of those pockets had straps that let you turn your backpack let you carry your jacket and turn it into its own backpack. So with those experiences of fear on high mountains, we figured out how to make less clothing do more for us so that we can tackle our fears and face them and have more of what we need with us without having to plan ahead. That we try to make things low key, look normal, but they're low key, and change their shape like the trickster of Viking mythology, being Anderson brothers that fits for us. We still continue to try to work on clothing, and we'll continue to. Thank you for hearing out our solutions from fear by making clothing to face it. Thank you.